I chose to do mine on anorexia and how it affects the adolescent female. And I didn't do that to say that it doesn't affect adolescent males at all, because 1 in every 10 cases is a male. I just chose to look at it from the perspective of focusing on females. So I kind of narrowed it down. So I'm not eliminating males, I'm just focusing on females. Okay, what is anorexia? According to this doctor, Michael Strober, anorexia is a frightening and puzzling eating disorder, most basically characterized by an intense fear of gaining weight and a marked distortion of body shape and size and an inability to maintain a minimally normal body weight. And I just kind of like that quote. There are a lot of different medical terms and different definitions that you can go by, but I like this one because it broke it up, it put it in easy words to understand, and it basically just lays it out for you. It comes from a fear of gaining weight or being fat, and even though these people who suffer from it are so skinny and so small, they don't see that themselves. How other people are looking at them isn't how they see themselves at all. So it kind of just becomes an obsession, really, with food and losing weight and not eating. Characteristics and behaviors. Anorexia is most prevalent in adolescent females, which I used to think, when I thought of anorexia, I thought more of like the college age, girls, but now it's even starting in grammar school. In my research and stuff, and I'll talk about later, surveys and questionnaires that are given to 3rd graders, 5th graders, they are already saying that they've dieted before, they think that they need to lose weight, they don't like the way that they look in pictures and things like that. And it just breaks my heart to think that you're in 3rd grade and you're already thinking that you don't look good enough and you need to change the way that you look. But it involves psychological, sociological, and neurobiological conditions, so it's all physical, mental, and emotional. All socioeconomic, ethnic, and cultural groups can be affected, so it's really not found to be more prevalent in one category over another. It can affect anybody. It's a control of body weight by starving themselves. And there are other ways of going about it too. Eating and then purging immediately after eating is a way to try and lose weight, and then excessive exercising and using laxatives or diet pills are all ways that people go about carrying this out. If, some people say they do like food too much, they don't think they could go, the starving route, so instead they eat what they want, and then they're exercising for hours on end, morning workouts, afternoon workouts, at night. And even throughout my reading, I read about how girls who were in treatment, in the hospitals, they are paid attention to very closely, and so everything that they eat is monitored, and they're not allowed to exercise and all of this stuff. And one of the nurses was writing this article, and she said that one of her patients was really doing well, that she wasn't, over-exercising, and she was gaining weight and getting to a normal weight, and then all of a sudden it just stopped, and they couldn't figure out what was going wrong, because she was eating her food, and they would sit there and, watch her, so it wasn't like she was hiding it, and, she wasn't throwing up afterwards, and, they couldn't figure it out until a nurse on another floor was talking about how helpful this girl was for her. She's like, she helps me so much. She runs all of my errands with me, and she comes to all the different rooms in the hospitals with me. And they finally figured out that she'd been walking miles around the hospital every day, pretending like she was helping other people, but really it was just to go up and down the stairs and to get her exercise in. So these people are really tricky too. It's like they think of anything and everything that you wouldn't even think of, but they really do go to all drastic measures. Adolescents at risk. The greatest period for the onset of anorexia is pretty much when puberty occurs or just after. And I found through my research that girls who mature early are usually more, they're more interested in changing their body and stuff because they're uncomfortable. They're different than their friends, and they don't understand why. And when girls go through puberty, those kind of changes come. They gain weight, their hips widen, things like that. And some girls, when that happens, are like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? I'm gaining weight first, and I'm doing this. So they want to, stop the process and stay small and, not change. And so this is when this comes about, and it's usually in middle school or junior high. Natural changes in the body structure may leave girls dissatisfied with their bodies. Student athletes who are also extremely dedicated to their schoolwork are usually susceptible to this kind of disease, because a lot of people who suffer from this are perfectionists, and they, they need everything in control and in line. and if they are a certain athlete in a certain sport, they are driven to, be the best, and so this might be one aspect of it. Perfectionism, drive, and ambition are all characteristics of anorexics. Some possible causes and factors that play a role: dissatisfaction of the body due to, the maturing process. We talked about that. Seeking approval from others. Middle school girls, junior high girls, they are starting to like boys more. They want their approval. They need approval from their friends as well. So being the prettiest, skinniest, most beautiful is one way to gain approval from others. And then, as Kristen talked about, in media, pictures in magazines, on billboards, and advertisements. And then I had a quote in my paper that I also wanted to share about the media. I found it really interesting. It was pretty much just saying that the same magazines that, the same media that publishes articles on the terrible effects of severe dieting, mixed behaviors, and maintaining a very low body weight, these articles are frequently also included in the same issues as pictures of excessively thin models, modeling for clothes and other products geared toward pre-adolescents and adolescents. So even if a magazine does, publish an article about, this girl's story, she was anorexic, but she overcame it, you flip through the rest of the magazine and there's clothes, advertisements for people who aren't wearing any clothes, but they're really skinny, so it kind of mixes up the messages. Genetics also has proven to be a factor, and if it isn't through genetics, I also started to think about young girls who listen to their mothers or their older sisters, or older girls that they will hang out with, and you hear a lot of moms be like, oh, well, I have to lose weight by this date, or oh, don't take pictures with me, So these young girls are even getting this message from other role models and family members, even if they're not reading magazines or watching movies or getting it through the media. It also tends to come with dealing with overwhelming amounts of stress, because it is a control issue, and when people feel like their lives are going every which way, and there are a lot of things happening that they can't control. Food and their eating is one thing that only they can control. No one else is going to sit down and force you to eat, so it's kind of just like something that you are in charge of, and that kind of gives you the sense of power, I want to say, maybe. So yes, it's a way of dealing with stress. Demanding or strict weight restrictions for sports and activities, and we kind of brought that up. And throughout my research, it mentioned specific sports that have higher percentage of tendencies, of producing people with eating disorders. There was gymnastics and figure skating, and then with the males, wrestling, and then track and cross country was another one too. So yeah, if you have coaches that influence these, adolescents to lose weight to become better performers, they're going to get that idea in their head, and it can kind of spin out of control into a real problem, rather than just losing a couple pounds to win the competition, So that's a factor. Effects of anorexia on the body. Osteoporosis can begin very early. As soon as you are under a normal weight and your body is suffering from this disease, it affects your bones. And young girls who have this, they are found to have osteoporosis by the time they're in their 20s. It's terrible. Their growth is stunted. They're not growing at all. And the delayed onset of menstruation, either girls are starting so young where they haven't started their period yet, so they're not getting it, it's delayed, or when you do have a severe eating disorder, if your menstruation stops, that's a huge indicator, that you have an eating disorder and that you're underweight and you're unhealthy. And once that, begins, you have higher and higher chances of having problems with fertility later on in life, even if you do recover from the eating disorder. Years later down the line, you get married, you want to have kids or whatever. A lot of people experience problems having children because their, insides and organs and everything were so messed up from what they were doing to themselves early on. Damage to vital organs such as the heart and the brain. 1 in 10 cases of anorexia leads to death from cardiac arrest, starvation, or other medical complications. And I feel in the recent years there's been more and more, runway models who you hear have died because they're so thin, they can't even live anymore. Girls developing the disorder at a much younger age. In a recent study containing 2,279 girls from 42 different schools in southern Ontario, this was a 10-year study, And a small number of the 10 to 14-year-old girls stated that they were already involved in binge eating and vomiting or extreme dieting. I mean, 10 to 14 years old, that's so young. I was shocked when I read that, but yeah, a lot of studies that have been done across the country are finding out that elementary and middle schoolers are, you know, really not even only thinking about this, but they're acting on it. And so I have this video clip. I really hope it works. If you want to try and turn on the light, I think it'll be easier to see. Really interesting that, you know, girls aren't even really scared to talk about it and tell the truth, because when they are asked about it, they're honest, you know, and when they're given these surveys and stuff, they're obviously, you know, answering them that yes, they've dieted before and yes, they've gone to extreme measures already at such a young age. So this one I found the most shocking was as young as first grade. According to a study done in Connecticut on first, third, and fifth graders, first graders there was 40%, third graders 50%, and fifth graders 66% had at one point been on diet. And you can see that the numbers are increasing as they do get older, so there are more, you know, later on in life, but they're starting really young. So signs or symptoms to look for. Physically, weight loss or fluctuation in a short period of time. A lot of complaints about abdominal pain, maybe because they haven't been eating, their stomachs are continuously empty. Feeling cold, faint, or tired. A lot of anorexics are always cold because they don't have any body fat on them to, keep them warm. And dry hair, skin, dehydration, blue hands and feet, or fine hair on the body, because once your body goes into starvation mode and you do lose all of your fat and you are continuously holding all this stuff, your body will actually grow fine hair to try to keep you warm because you don't have anything. Behavioral, dieting or chaotic food intake, pretending to eat and then throwing away food, exercising for long periods of time, constantly talking about food, as it's an obsession, wearing baggy or loose clothing to hide a very thin body. Emotional, complaints about appearances, particularly about being fat or feeling fat, sadness or comments about feeling worthless, that they don't like themselves, and perfectionist attitude, because it usually goes along with feeling like you have to be perfect in every aspect of your life. So what's being done? Ontario, after all those studies were done in Ontario, the Teachers Federation has created a body image study packet for grades 1 to 8. It's handed out to all of the schools, and it's encouraged that the teachers go through it at least at some point during the school year. There's also the Harris Children's Self-Concept Scale. That's a survey that's usually given at some point during the school year to elementary, middle school, and junior high. And the eating disorder inventory measures drive for thinness, bulimia, body dissatisfaction, ineffectiveness, perfectionism, interpersonal distrust, interoceptive awareness, and maturity fears. And I actually have a copy of that. I didn't make one for everybody, but this is what it looks like, the test. It's called Eat 26, and it's Eating Attitudes Test. And there are 26 questions on it, and the answers range from always to never, with usually, often, sometimes, and rarely in between. And just some of the questions on here are, I am terrified about being overweight. I feel extremely guilty after eating. I'm preoccupied with the desire to be thinner. While exercising, I think about burning more calories. I feel uncomfortable after eating sweets. I give too much time and thought to food. So it's pretty much very straightforward.
See, I would say yes, but I just eat anything.
I'm guilty. It's, they're very straightforward questions. And then there's also a scoring sheet that goes along with it, and every question is worth a certain amount of points, whether you answer always or, whatever. And then there's a Body-Wise handbook for school personnel, and I actually found that on the internet, and it was about a 20-page handbook, and it's for teachers and administrators to look at and how they can incorporate it in the school day. Prevention, there are different books, and one author says, if left untreated, eating disorders can lead to chronic health problems, depression, and even death. And then these are my sources used. I'm really sorry that you guys are late.
No, you're good. You're good.
So, there you go.